The massive alien vessel hung silently in the inky blackness of space, its sleek obsidian hull absorbing what little starlight reached this distant corner of the galaxy. Within its cavernous command center, General Zixtar stood motionless, his forearms crossed behind his back as he gazed at the holographic display before him. The blue and green orb spinning lazily in the projection was unlike anything the seasoned Valorian commander had ever encountered. "Report." Zixtar's voice reverberated through the chamber, a mix of curiosity and trepidation coloring his typically stoic tone. Science Officer Nara stepped forward, her iridescent scales shimmering under the soft glow of the ship's bioluminescent lighting. "General, our initial scans confirm this is indeed the source of the anomalous energy readings we detected. The planet appears to be teeming with life, including a dominant sentient species." Zixtar's upper set of eyes narrowed while his lower pair widened in surprise. "Sentient life? Here, on this unremarkable rock?" "Yes, sir," Nara continued, her slender fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "They call themselves humans. Our probes have been observing them for several planetary rotations now. Their level of technological advancement is primitive by our standards, but there's something extraordinary about them." The general's antennae twitched with interest. "Elaborate." Nara hesitated, her usual scientific detachment wavering. "It's difficult to explain, sir. Perhaps it's best if I show you." With a few deft movements, the holographic display shifted, zooming in on a particular region of the planet's surface. The image resolved into a scene that left the assembled Valorian crew speechless. Before them was a sprawling complex of metal structures, vibrant colors, and what appeared to be small bipedal creatures darting about in seemingly random patterns. The creatures, clearly juvenile members of the species, were engaging in activities that defied logical explanation. What are we looking at?" Zixtar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Nara cleared her throat, her scientific training kicking in to mask her own bewilderment. "This appears to be what the humans call a playground, sir. It's a designated area for their young to. Well, we're not entirely sure. Our best guess is that it's some form of training ground, but the methods are unlike anything we've ever encountered." The crew watched in stunned silence as human children flung themselves down curved metal slides, their small bodies accelerating at alarming speeds before tumbling onto the ground below. Others clung to rotating platforms, centrifugal forces threatening to hurl them into the air at any moment. A group of younglings had gathered around a towering structure, taking turns climbing to dizzying heights with no apparent safety measures in place. "Are they enjoying this?" one of the junior officers asked, his voice tinged with a mixture of horror and fascination. Nara nodded slowly. "All evidence suggests that yes, this is a form of recreation for them. They appear to derive great pleasure from these high-risk activities." General Zixtar's expression was unreadable as he processed this information. In all his cycles of space exploration, he had never encountered a species that willingly subjected its young to such potential dangers. On Vela, children were kept in carefully controlled environments, shielded from even the slightest risk until they reached full maturity. "Show me more," he commanded, his curiosity overriding his initial shock. The holographic display shifted again, this time focusing on a small group of human children engaged in what appeared to be a mock battle. They wielded crude wooden implements, swinging them at each other with surprising force and precision. What struck the Valorians most was not the combat itself, but the laughter and shouts of joy that accompanied each blow. "They seem to be simulating warfare," Nara explained, "but as a form of play. Our observations indicate that this behavior is not only tolerated but encouraged by their adult caretakers." Zixtar's mind raced with the implications of what he was witnessing. A species that not only survived but thrived in what the Valorians would consider extremely hazardous conditions. A race that seemed to embrace risk and challenge from the earliest stages of development. "What else have you observed?" he asked, his voice low and intense. Nara brought up a series of images, children racing at breakneck speeds on two-wheeled contraptions, hurling their bodies into bodies of water from great heights and scaling sheer rock faces with minimal equipment. Their capacity for adapting to and overcoming physical challenges is remarkable, Nora continued. We've documented countless instances of what we would consider severe injuries, yet the human children often resume their activities almost immediately, sometimes even with increased enthusiasm. The command center fell into a contemplative silence as the implications of these observations sank in. General Zixtar's mind was already racing ahead, considering the potential consequences of this discovery. If their young are this resilient, he mused aloud, what are their adults capable of? The question hung in the air, unanswered but heavy with possibility. The Valorians had come to this unremarkable corner of the galaxy expecting to find, at most, simple microbial life. Instead, they had stumbled upon a species that challenged everything they thought they knew about survival, adaptation, and the very nature of sentient development. Your orders, sir, Nora asked, breaking the silence. Zixtar straightened, his decision made. We need to know more. Expand our observation protocols. I want round-the-clock monitoring of these playgrounds and any other areas where human young gather, and prepare a report for High Command. They'll want to know about this immediately. As the crew scrambled to carry out his orders, Zixtar turned back to the holographic display. He watched as a small human child, having fallen from a considerable height, simply stood up, brushed herself off, and ran back to climb again. A strange feeling stirred within him, a mixture of admiration, curiosity, and something approaching fear. What are you? He whispered to the oblivious humans below. And what will you become? As the Valorian ship hung silently in orbit, its advanced sensors trained on the blue planet below, the human children continued their play, blissfully unaware that their laughter and scraped knees had captured the attention of beings from beyond the stars. The first contact had been made, and nothing would ever be the same again. As Earth's rotation brought nightfall to the playground, General Zixtar found himself unable to look away from the holographic displays. The Valorian Command Center had transformed into a hub of frenetic activity, with analysts and scientists poring over the flood of data streaming in from their covered observation posts. General, Nora's voice cut through his contemplation. We've compiled the initial reports on human resilience and adaptability. I think you'll find them intriguing. Zixtar nodded, gesturing for her to continue. Nora's scales shimmered with a mix of excitement and unease as she began her presentation. Our studies have revealed that human physiology is remarkably adaptable, she explained, bringing up a series of biomedical scans. Their skeletal structure, while seemingly fragile, has an incredible capacity for self-repair. What's more, their nervous system appears to be wired for risk-taking and learning from failure. The general's antennae twitched with interest. Explain. Nora zoomed in on a neural map of a human child's brain. When human children engage in these play activities, their brains release chemicals that not only mitigate pain, but actually reward them for taking risks. It's as if their entire species has evolved to seek out challenges. Fascinating, Zixtar murmured. But surely their adults must intervene to prevent serious harm. At this, Nora's expression grew even more perplexed. That's another anomaly, sir. While human adults do provide some level of supervision, they often encourage these risky behaviors. They have a saying, it builds character. The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. A junior officer broke the silence, his voice tinged with awe. They're training their young to be fearless. Zixtar pondered this. On Valor, youth were carefully shielded from all potential dangers, raised in sterile environments designed to maximize their chances of reaching adulthood unscathed. The idea of intentionally exposing children to risk was alien to them, in every sense of the word. Show me more, the general commanded. The holographic display shifted, showcasing a variety of human activities. Children raced down snowy slopes on narrow boards, navigated treacherous waterways in flimsy vessels, and hurled themselves into the air with nothing but elastic cords to prevent their demise. These are considered extreme sports, Nara explained. As humans age, many seek out even greater challenges. It's as if their entire culture is built around pushing the limits of their physical and mental capabilities. Zixtar's mind raced with the tactical implications. A species that not only tolerated but embraced danger from such a young age would be formidable indeed. What about their societal structure? Surely such recklessness must lead to chaos. Nara shook her head, her scales rippling with excitement. That's the most remarkable part, sir. Despite, or perhaps because of, this propensity for risk-taking, humans have made significant advancements in science, art, and technology. Their history is filled with individuals who took great risks to push the boundaries of what their species thought possible. The general's lower eyes narrowed in concentration, and their military capabilities. Limited compared to ours, but Nara hesitated. Their tactics and strategies often defy conventional logic. They have a history of overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds through sheer determination and adaptability. As if to illustrate her point, the display shifted to show historical footage of human conflicts. The Valorians watched in stunned silence as humans charged across open battlefields, scaled sheer cliffs under enemy fire, and ventured into the unforgiving vacuum of space with technology that seemed woefully inadequate for the task. "This changes everything," Zixtar said, his voice barely above a whisper. "High Command must be informed immediately. Prepare a full report on human capabilities, focusing on their adaptability and risk tolerance. And double our observation efforts. I want to know everything about how they train their young." As the command center burst into action, Zixtar turned his gaze back to the holographic image of Earth. The seeming insignificant blue planet suddenly loomed large in his mind, teeming with potential allies or formidable adversaries. "Sir," a junior officer interrupted his thoughts. "We've detected an anomaly in Sector 7. Zixtar's attention snapped to the officer. "Explain." "One of our cloaked observation drones may have malfunctioned. It's hovering just outside its designated zone, dangerously close to a human settlement." The general's hearts raced. "Recall it immediately." "We're trying, sir, but it's not responding to commands. And there's movement in the area." The holographic display zoomed in on a small rural area. A lone human child, no more than 10 cycles old by their estimates, was wandering away from the cluster of dwellings, heading straight for the malfunctioning drone. "Impossible," Nara breathed. "Our cloaking technology is impenetrable. There's no way a human child could detect." Her words were cut short as they watched the young human reach out, curiosity evident in every movement, and touch the invisible drone. For a moment, time seemed to stand still in the Valorian command center. Then chaos erupted. The drone's cloaking field flickered and failed, revealing its sleek, alien form to the wide-eyed human child. Alarms blared throughout the ship as the gravity of the situation became clear. Their presence had been compromised. "Initiate emergency protocols," Zixtar bellowed, his calm demeanor cracking under the weight of this unforeseen crisis. "Recall all ground units and prepare for immediate withdrawal." As the Valorian crews scrambled to contain the fallout of this disastrous turn of events, the general couldn't help but marvel at the irony. All their advanced technology and careful planning had been undone by the very trait they had been studying: a human child's insatiable curiosity and willingness to reach out into the unknown. On the planet below, young Tommy Stevens stood transfixed, his hand still outstretched towards the strange, shimmering object that had appeared out of thin air. His mind raced with questions and possibilities, blissfully unaware that his simple act of curiosity had just changed the course of human history. The first direct contact between humanity and an alien civilization had been made, and it had happened not in a grand official ceremony, but in a quiet field on the outskirts of a small town, all because a child dared to reach out and touch the unknown. As the Valorian ship prepared for emergency departure, Zixtal realized with a mix of dread and excitement that their mission had irrevocably changed. They had come to study humanity in secret, but now, ready or not, the time for open contact was upon them. The game had changed, and as he watched the awestruck human child on the display, Zixtar couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger adventure. Tommy Stevens stood rooted to the spot, his eyes wide with wonder as the strange, shimmering object before him solidified into a sleek, metallic form unlike anything he'd ever seen. His heart raced with a mixture of excitement and fear, the kind he usually only felt when attempting a particularly daring skateboard trick or exploring the abandoned mine shaft at the edge of town, activities his parents had explicitly forbidden. "Whoa," he breathed, reaching out to touch the smooth, cool surface of the alien drone. As his fingers made contact, a soft humming filled the air, and intricate patterns of light danced across the object's exterior. Suddenly, a beam of light shot out from the drone, enveloping Tommy in a pale blue glow. He yelped in surprise, but found himself unable to move as information flooded his young mind, strange symbols, flashes of unfamiliar landscapes, and glimpses of beings that couldn't possibly be from Earth. Miles above, in the Valorian ship, alarms blared as the command center erupted into chaos. "The drone's failsafe has been activated," Nora shouted, her scales flashing anxious patterns. "It's uploading a data packet directly into the human child's neural network." General Zixtar's forearms gesticulated wildly as he barked orders. "Shut it down. Initiate remote destruct sequence if you have to." But it was too late. The data transfer completed in a matter of seconds, leaving Tommy gasping and disoriented as the blue light faded. The drone, its final protocol executed, shimmered once more and vanished from sight, leaving no trace of its existence save for the impossible knowledge now imprinted in the mind of a 10-year-old human boy. "Sir," a junior officer called out, his voice trembling. "The human child, he's moving, heading back towards the settlement." Zixtar felt a cold dread settle in his thorax. "Track him. I want to know every move he makes, every being he interacts with. Nora, assemble a team. We need to know exactly what information was transferred and what the potential fallout could be." As the Valorian ship hummed with frantic activity, Tommy stumbled back towards his home, his mind reeling from the encounter. Fragments of alien knowledge flickered through his consciousness, advanced mathematical concepts, glimpses of futuristic technology, and most alarmingly, the undeniable proof that humanity was not alone in the universe. By the time he burst through his front door, out of breath and wild-eyed, Tommy had made a decision that would change the course of human history. He had to tell someone, everyone. "Mom, Dad," he shouted, his voice cracking with excitement. "You're not gonna believe what just happened." In the Valorian command center, Zixtal watched with mounting horror as the young human began to recount his experience to his increasingly skeptical parents. "Sir," Nora said, her voice low and urgent, "our analysis of the data packet is complete. The failsafe protocol was designed to provide just enough information to prove the existence of extraterrestrial life, without revealing any critical details about our species or technology." The general's antennae drooped. In other words, just enough to throw their entire world into chaos. Nora nodded grimly. "Precisely, sir, and given the human propensity for information sharing, especially among their youth." She didn't need to finish the thought. They both knew that containment was no longer an option. The secret was out, and it would spread like wildfire through human communication networks. Over the next few hours, the Valorians watched in a mix of fascination and dread as Tommy's story began to circulate. At first, it was dismissed as the overactive imagination of a child. But as he began to draw complex diagrams and spout advanced theories that should have been far beyond his comprehension, people started to take notice. Local news outlets picked up the story, treating it as a human interest piece about a precocious child. But as experts began to examine Tommy's newfound knowledge, the tone shifted. Scientists were baffled by his sudden expertise in theoretical physics and xenobiology. Government agencies started to take an interest, and whispers of first contact began to circulate through corridors of power. "General," a communications officer called out, "we're detecting a surge of encrypted transmissions from human military installations. They're mobilizing." Zixtar's lower eyes narrowed as he considered their options. The mission parameters had been clear: observe and study, but under no circumstances reveal their presence to the humans. That directive had been irrevocably shattered. "Sir," Nara interjected, her voice tinged with an emotion rarely heard in Valorian discourse, "hope. Perhaps this is an opportunity." The general turned to her, his antennae twitching questioningly. "We came here to study them, to understand their resilience and adaptability," she continued. "What better test than this? A global paradigm shift, thrust upon them without warning. If they can navigate this crisis, adapt to the knowledge that they're not alone in the universe, then they might be worthy of open contact," Zixtar finished, a new possibility dawning in his mind. For the next several days, the Valorian ship maintained its silent vigil above the Earth, watching as humanity grappled with the implications of Tommy's revelation. Governments issued conflicting statements, alternating between denials and calls for calm. Religious leaders huddled in emergency conclaves, struggling to reconcile their doctrines with the new reality. And all the while, the people of Earth looked to the skies with a mixture of fear, wonder, and anticipation. In his small town, Tommy found himself at the center of a media frenzy. Reporters camped outside his house, scientists pleaded for interviews, and government agents whispered about national security. Through it all, the young boy remained remarkably composed, driven by an unshakable certainty that what he had experienced was real. As the human world teetered on the brink of chaos, Zixtar made a decision that would alter the course of both their civilizations. "Prepare for atmospheric entry," he commanded, his voice resonating through the command center. "It's time we introduced ourselves properly." Nara looked at him, her scales shimmering with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Are you sure about this, sir? The consequences are already in motion," Zixtar finished. "We can hide and watch, or we can seize this moment to forge a new path. These humans have shown remarkable resilience in the face of the unknown. Perhaps it's time we showed them the same courage." As the Valorian ship began its descent towards Earth, breaking through layers of atmosphere in a spectacle that lit up skies around the world, humanity held its collective breath. In living rooms and government bunkers, on street corners, and in houses of worship, billions of eyes turned skyward. And in a small town that had become the unlikely epicenter of humanity's first contact, young Tommy Stevens smiled. He had touched the unknown and lived to tell the tale. Now, as the sleek alien craft appeared in the sky above his home, he felt a surge of that same fearless curiosity that had led him to reach out and touch the drone. Whatever came next, Tommy knew one thing for certain: the greatest adventure in human history was about to begin, and he was right at the heart of it. As the Valorian ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, its advanced cloaking technology disengaged, revealing a massive, otherworldly vessel that defied human understanding. The sight of it hovering above Tommy's small town sent shockwaves around the globe. Social media exploded with a mixture of panic, excitement, and disbelief. World leaders scrambled to coordinate a response. Their carefully laid protocols for first contact scenarios suddenly thrust into reality. General Zixtar stood at the helm, his forearms steady as he guided the ship to a landing in an open field just outside the town. "Initiate atmospheric compatibility protocols," he commanded. "Prepare the delegation for disembarkation." As the ship touched down, a hush fell over the gathered crowd of townspeople, media, and hastily assembled government officials. The tension was palpable, a mix of fear and anticipation hanging in the air like an electric charge. A hatch on the side of the ship slowly opened, and a ramp extended to the ground. The assembled humans collectively held their breath as the first Valorian emerged into the sunlight. General Zixtar, flanked by Nara and a small contingent of officers, stepped onto Earth's soil. Their alien forms, tall, slender beings with 4 arms, iridescent scales, and large, expressive eyes, were a stark contrast to the humans watching in awe. For a moment, silence reigned. Then from the crowd, a small figure darted forward, breaking through the line of stunned adults. "Tommy, no," his mother cried, reaching out to grab him, but it was too late. The boy who had started it all ran straight up to General Zixtar, his eyes wide with wonder rather than fear. "I knew you were real," he said, his voice filled with the simple conviction of youth. Zixtar, taken aback by the child's boldness, knelt down to meet Tommy at eye level. "Indeed we are," he replied, his voice translated by an advanced device that rendered his alien speech into perfect English. "And you, young one, have changed the course of history for both our peoples." This exchange, broadcast live around the world, seemed to break the spell of shock that had gripped the onlookers. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, and slowly, cautiously, others began to step forward. Over the next few hours, as government officials and scientific experts arrived on the scene, an impromptu cultural exchange began. The Valorians, led by Zixtar and Nara, patiently answered questions and demonstrated some of their advanced technology, careful not to reveal anything that might drastically upset the balance of power on Earth. Nara found herself surrounded by a group of wide-eyed children, Tommy at the forefront, peppering her with questions about life among the stars. Her scales shimmered with amusement and warmth as she regaled them with tales of distant planets and cosmic wonders. "Do you have playgrounds on your world?" one child asked, curiosity overcoming shyness. Nara hesitated, her translator working to find the right words. "Not exactly," she replied. "Our young are raised in carefully controlled environments to ensure their safety." The children exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of pity and disbelief. "But how do you learn to be brave?" Tommy asked, voicing what all of them were thinking. This innocent question sparked a deep discussion among the Valorian delegation. They had come to study human resilience, yet here they were, being challenged by the very subjects of their research. As night fell, temporary structures were erected to house ongoing discussions between human and Valorian representatives. The initial fear had given way to a cautious optimism, with both sides eager to learn from each other. In one such meeting, a human scientist broached the subject that had first drawn the Valorians to Earth. "We've noticed your fascination with our children's play," she said. "May I ask why?" Zixtar exchanged a glance with Nara before responding. "Your species' approach to child rearing is unique in our experience," he explained. "The way you encourage risk-taking and resilience from such a young age is both fascinating and, frankly, a little terrifying to us." The human delegates chuckled, but there was a note of pride in their laughter. "It's not without its controversies," one of them admitted, "but we believe it prepares our children for the challenges of life." As the night wore on, both humans and Valorians found themselves re-evaluating long-held beliefs. The Valorians were struck by the humans' capacity for adaptation, their ability to face the unknown with a mix of caution and excitement. The humans, in turn, were awed by the Valorians' advanced technology and the vast knowledge they possessed about the universe. But it was the children who truly bridged the gap between the two species. Their natural curiosity and lack of preconceived notions allowed them to connect with the Valorians in a way the adults struggled to match. Tommy, still at the center of it all, had become an impromptu ambassador. He regaled the Valorians with tales of his adventures, skateboarding mishaps, tree-climbing expeditions, and the time he and his friends built a raft to explore the local river. Nora listened, her scales shifting colors with each emotional beat of the stories. "You knowingly put yourself in danger," she said, her tone a mix of horror and admiration. "Why?" Tommy shrugged, a grin spreading across his face. "Because it's fun," he said simply. "And because each time I try something scary and survive, I feel stronger, like I can face anything. This simple statement resonated deeply with the Valorians. They had achieved great technological advancements, but had they lost something vital in their pursuit of safety and control? As dawn broke on the second day of first contact, both species found themselves at a crossroads. The initial shock had worn off, replaced by a growing sense of possibility. Humans and alike realized that they had much to learn from each other. Standing atop a small hill overlooking the bustling encampment, felt a sense of profound change. He had come to Earth expecting to find subjects for study. Instead, he had found partners in the great cosmic adventure. "General," Nora said, approaching with a group of human children in tow, Tommy at the lead. "The young ones have a proposal for us." Turned, his antennae twitching with curiosity. "Oh." Tommy stepped forward, his eyes shining with excitement. "We want to build a playground," he announced. "But not just any playground. The most awesome, most challenging playground ever. And we want you to help us make it." The general's eyes widened in surprise. He looked at Nara, who nodded encouragingly, her scales shimmering with anticipation. As considered the proposal, he realized that this, perhaps, was the true purpose of their mission. Not just to observe and study, but to engage, to learn, and to grow alongside this remarkable species. "Very well," he said, his translator conveying the smile in his voice. "Let us build a playground together, and in doing so, perhaps we'll build a bridge between our worlds." As the sun rose higher, casting its warm light over humans, and working side by side, the dawn of a new era of intergalactic began to take shape. And at its heart was a playground, a symbol of the human spirit of adventure and the willingness to embrace new perspectives. The greatest cultural exchange in history had begun, and its lessons would resonate across the stars for generations too. As weeks turned into months, the small town that had been the epicenter of first contact transformed into a hub of interstellar cooperation. The playground project, initially proposed by Tommy and his friends, had evolved into something far greater than anyone could have imagined. Rising from the Earth was a structure that defied easy categorization. It was part obstacle course, part science lab, and part cosmic simulator. Valorian technology merged seamlessly with human ingenuity, creating a space that challenged both species to push their boundaries. General stood at the base of the towering construct, his four eyes taking in the controlled chaos around him. Human children darted fearlessly across swinging bridges made of energy fields, while young Valorians tentatively explored rope ladders and tire swings. "Remarkable," he murmured, his translator off for the moment as he spoke to Nara. "I never thought I'd see the day when our young would willingly engage in such risky behavior." Nora's scales shimmered with a mix of pride and anxiety as she watched a group of children attempt to navigate a human-designed climbing wall. "It goes against everything we've been taught," she admitted. "And yet, look at them. They're thriving." Indeed, the change in the youth was undeniable. Those who had initially shied away from the more challenging aspects of the playground now approached them with cautious enthusiasm. They were learning to fall, to fail, and most importantly, to get back up and try again. Meanwhile, human children were eagerly absorbing knowledge from their alien counterparts. Impromptu physics lessons took place at the top of slides, with young explaining principles of momentum and friction as humans listened in wide-eyed wonder before taking the plunge. Tommy, now a lanky 11-year-old and unofficial ambassador of human play, was leading a mixed group of human and Valorian children through a complex series of obstacles. "Come on," he called out encouragingly to a young Valorian who hesitated at the edge of a zip line. "Remember what we practiced, just let go and enjoy the ride." Watch as the young, his own great-nephew, took a deep breath and launched himself down the line. The alien child's initial shriek of fear transformed into a whoop of joy as he sailed through the air, landing safely in a pile of cushions at the other end. "He's going to be insufferable at the next family gathering," the general chuckled, a very human expression he picked up over the months of cultural exchange. As the day wore on, the playground became a backdrop for deeper discussions between human and Valorian adults. Scientists from both species huddled over holographic displays, excitedly sharing discoveries and theories. Diplomats hammered out the details of joint space exploration missions, while artists and philosophers engaged in passionate debates about the nature of creativity and risk. "But aren't you constantly worried?" she asked, her scales pulsing with concern as she watched a young human girl attempt a particularly daring maneuver on the anti-gravity platforms. One of the fathers laughed. "Of course we worry," he said. "But we've learned that a skinned knee or a bruised ego is a small price to pay for the confidence and resilience they gain." A mother nodded in agreement. "We can't protect them from everything," she added. "The best we can do is teach them how to face challenges head-on and bounce back from failure." As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the playground, Zixtal called for everyone's attention. Humans and Valorians gathered around, a sea of faces both familiar and alien, united in their shared experience. "Friends," the general began, his translator conveying the emotion in his voice. "When we first came to your world, we thought we were here to study you, to understand the source of your remarkable resilience and adaptability. But you have given us so much more than data and observations." He gestured to the playground and the diverse crowd before him. "You've shown us that true strength comes not from avoiding risk, but from facing it. That innovation thrives, not in the safe and controlled, but in the chaotic and challenging. And most importantly, you've taught us the value of play, not just for children, but for all of us who seek to grow and explore." A cheer went up from the assembled crowd, human and Valorian voices blending in a chorus of agreement. "As we move forward into this new era of cooperation," Zixtal continued, "let us remember the lessons of this playground. Let us approach the universe with the curiosity of a child, the courage to fail, and the resilience to try again." As the general's words faded, a new sound filled the air, the unmistakable melody of an ice cream truck. Human children cheered, while their Valorian counterparts looked on in confusion. Tommy grinned, grabbing Zix by one of his 4 hands. "Come on," he shouted. "You haven't lived until you've had a rocket pop while hanging upside down on the monkey bars." As night fell, the playground was alive with laughter, the glow of bioluminescent Valorian technology blending with the warm light of Earth's moon. Human and alien children chased each other through obstacle courses, shared frozen treats, and whispered secrets of their respective worlds. Zixtar and Nara stood at the edge of it all, watching as 2 species, separated by light years and eons of evolution, found common ground in the simple joy of play. "You know," Nara said softly, "I think we've discovered something far more valuable than resilience or adaptability." The general nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Indeed, we've discovered the power of coming together, of learning from our differences rather than fearing them." As a shooting star streaked across the sky, a symbol of the vast frontier that awaited them, both human and Valorian eyes turned upward. The playground below stood as a testament to what they could achieve together, a first step towards a future where the entire galaxy might become their shared playground, full of wonders to explore and challenges to overcome. In that moment, under the starry sky, with the sounds of joyous play echoing around them, the boundaries between human and alien seemed to fade away. They were no longer separate species, but fellow adventurers on the greatest journey of all, the exploration of life's infinite possibilities. And it had all started with a child's fearless curiosity and an alien's willingness to learn. As Zixtar looked at Tommy, now excitedly explaining the concept of brain freeze to a group of bewildered Valorian children, he knew that the future, for both their peoples, was bright indeed. The general smiled, a very human expression that felt more natural with each passing day. "Well, Nara," he said, his voice filled with anticipation, "shall we see what other wonders await us out there?" Nara's scales shimmered with excitement. "After you, sir," she replied. "After all, we've learned from the best how to face the unknown." Together, they turned their gaze to the stars, ready to take the lessons of the playground to the far reaches of the cosmos. The adventure, it seemed, was only just beginning.